Announced War. Part 1. The Galactic Council chamber fell silent as Ambassador Sarah Chen stepped up to the crystalline podium. Around her, representatives from over 300 species watched with various appendages, optical sensors, and consciousness fields focused on the small human figure. The air recyclers hummed quietly, processing the diverse atmospheric requirements of the assembled delegates. Sarah's hands trembled slightly as she activated the universal translator. She had practiced this speech countless times, but the weight of what she was about to announce still made her heart race. Behind her, the holographic display showed the seal of the Terran Federation, a simple blue marble Earth surrounded by stars. "Honored delegates," she began, her voice carrying clearly through the vast chamber. "I stand before you today not as a petitioner, not as a seeker of aid, but as a herald of justice. For too long we have all lived in fear of the Void Hunters. For too long, we have accepted their reign of terror as an unchangeable fact of galactic life." A ripple of movement went through the assembly. The insectoid Kithara clicked their mandibles nervously. The gaseous ethereals pulsed with anxious light patterns. Even the mighty Drakmaran Empire's representative, a towering reptilian warrior, shifted uncomfortably in his environmental suit. The Void Hunters were spoken of only in whispers. They were the darkness between stars, the shadows that consumed entire worlds. No one knew exactly what they looked like, for few who encountered them survived to tell the tale. They appeared without warning, stripped planets of all life, and vanished back into the cosmic void. They had terrorized the galaxy for over 10,000 years. Today, Sarah continued, her voice growing stronger, the Terran Federation formally declares war on the Void Hunters. The chamber erupted. Delegates leaped from their seats, their various forms of communication creating a cacophony of sounds, lights, and pheromone releases. The Aquarian representative's water tank bubbled furiously as she tried to vocalize her shock through the liquid medium. The crystalline resonance chimed in harmonic discord. High Counselor Zethrak of the Galactic Council stood, his forearms raised for silence. The ancient being's skin showed deep purple stress patterns as he struggled to process what he had just heard. "Ambassador Chen," his translated voice boomed, "surely you cannot be serious. The Void Hunters are not a conventional enemy. They are a force of nature. Like stellar collapse or cosmic radiation, one does not declare war on entropy itself." Sarah smiled grimly. "With respect, High Counselor, that's exactly the kind of thinking that has allowed them to terrorize us for millennia. While you've been treating them as unstoppable forces of nature, we've been studying them. We've been preparing." She gestured, and the holographic display changed to show a three-dimensional map of the galaxy. Red zones marked areas where Void Hunter attacks had occurred over the past 1,000 years. There were hundreds of them, scattered seemingly at random across civilized space. "Look at this pattern," Sarah said. "Everyone assumes the attacks are random, but they're not. There's a method to their madness. They avoid certain stellar phenomena. They never attack during specific cosmic events. Most importantly, they always retreat when faced with significant resistance." The Drakmaran ambassador, General Thektar, stood slowly. His people were known as the greatest warriors in the galaxy, yet even they had never dared to actively hunt the Void Hunters. "Human," he growled through his translator. "My people have fought them 17 times. We have won defensive battles, yes, but at tremendous cost. What makes you think your young species can succeed where the combined might of the galaxy has failed?" Sarah's smile widened. "Because we're not trying to defend against them. We're going to hunt them down and destroy them completely." The chamber fell silent again, but this time it was a different kind of silence. It was the silence of predators recognizing another predator. The Void Hunters have been apex predators for so long that they've forgotten what it means to be prey, Sarah continued. "They hunt us because we're easy targets. We scatter, we hide, we defend. But humans? We're persistence hunters, General. It's what we evolved to do. We chase our prey until it can't run anymore, and then we finish it." She activated another display, showing a series of weapon designs that made several delegates gasp. "While you've been building bigger shields and hiding behind stronger fortifications, we've been building better spears. Quantum disruptors that can tear apart their energy absorption capabilities. Temporal mines that exist in several dimensions simultaneously. Ships that can track them through hyperspace itself." The ethereal delegate pulsed a deep blue pattern of concern. Through the translator, her voice came as a whisper of wind. "But why announce this? Why not hunt them in secret? You have revealed your hand to them. Sarah's expression turned fierce. Because we want them to know we're coming. For 10,000 years, they've inspired fear. Now it's their turn to feel it. We want every void hunter in the galaxy to know that somewhere in the darkness, humans are hunting them. We want them to look over their shoulders. We want them to second-guess every attack. She paused, looking around the chamber at the sea of alien faces, appendages and optical sensors, all focused on her. But more than that, we want you to know that the age of hiding is over. Humanity offers you a choice. Stand with us and help us drive these parasites from our galaxy forever, or step aside and watch as we do it alone. High Counselor Zethrak's stress patterns deepened. And if you fail? If you anger them and bring down their full wrath upon us all? Sarah's smile never wavered. Then you'll be no worse off than you are now, living in constant fear. But we won't fail, High Counselor, because humans have one advantage that no other species in this galaxy has ever possessed. And what is that? Asked the General Thektar. We're absolutely insane enough to think we can win, Sarah replied. And in our experience, that makes all the difference. As she stepped down from the podium, leaving the assembly in stunned silence, Sarah felt a grim satisfaction. The die was cast. Humanity had just declared war on the most feared entities in the galaxy. The Void Hunters would soon learn what it meant to be hunted by the children of Earth. Behind her, the holographic Earth continued to spin slowly, a small blue world that had just announced its intention to reshape the balance of power in the entire galaxy. Announced war. Part 2 Admiral Marcus Rodriguez stood on the bridge of the TFS Prometheus, watching the final preparations for humanity's first offensive strike against the Void Hunters. Through the reinforced viewport, he could see the rest of Task Force Alpha, 27 ships that represented the cutting edge of human military technology. Each vessel bristled with weapons that had never been tested in actual combat, designed specifically to hunt an enemy that most of the galaxy considered unkillable. Admiral, called Lieutenant Commander Singh from the tactical station, all ships report ready for hyperspace jump. The quantum tracking array is locked onto the Void Hunter signature from the Kepler 442 attack. Rodriguez nodded grimly. 3 weeks ago, the Void Hunters had struck Kepler 442, a human agricultural colony of nearly 2 million people. By the time the rescue ships arrived, there was nothing left but a barren rock orbiting a dying star. The attackers had vanished into hyperspace, leaving behind only the quantum residue that human scientists had learned to track. Dr. Yamamoto, Rodriguez called to the civilian scientist standing near the sensor array. Are you certain your tracking technology will work? Dr. Kenji Yamamoto, a thin man with prematurely gray hair, pushed his glasses up his nose nervously. As certain as we can be, Admiral. The quantum signatures left by their hyperspace jumps are unique. We can follow their trail for up to 6 months after an attack. The mathematics are sound. The doctor's hands shook slightly as he spoke. Like everyone aboard the Prometheus, he knew they were about to attempt something that had never been done before. No one had ever successfully tracked the Void Hunters to their origin point. No one had ever taken the fight to them. Communications, Rodriguez ordered. Patch me through to the fleet. The young communications officer, Ensign Park, nodded. You're live, Admiral. Rodriguez activated the fleet-wide channel. His voice carried to every ship in Task Force Alpha, reaching over 8,000 human souls who had volunteered for what many considered a suicide mission. Attention all ships, he began. Today we make history. Not just human history, but galactic history. For 10,000 years, the Void Hunters have been the apex predators of this galaxy. They have struck fear into the hearts of every civilized species. They have destroyed countless worlds and ended billions of lives. He paused, looking out at the stars. But they made one critical mistake. They attacked Earth's children. They killed our people. And now they're going to learn why that was the worst decision they've ever made. The bridge crew straightened at their stations. Through the communication system, Rodriguez could hear similar stirrings throughout the fleet. Humans preparing for war in the way they had for thousands of years. We are not the strongest species in the galaxy, Rodriguez continued. We are not the most advanced. We are not the oldest or the wisest. But we have something that the Void Hunters have never encountered before. We have the audacity to fight back. We have the stubbornness to never give up. And we have the cruelty to hunt our hunters. Dr. Yamamoto looked up from his console. Admiral, I'm reading massive quantum fluctuations from the fleet. The hyperspace drives are resonating in harmony. I've never seen anything like it, Rodriguez smiled grimly. That's not the drives, Doctor. That's human determination making reality bend to our will. All ships, he announced, prepare for hyperspace jump. We're going hunting. The space around Task Force Alpha began to distort as 27 human warships engaged their hyperspace drives simultaneously. Unlike the gentle transition used by most galactic species, human hyperspace technology was violent and aggressive, tearing holes in reality through sheer force. As the fleet vanished into hyperspace, following a quantum trail left by humanity's greatest enemy, the fabric of spacetime itself seemed to recoil from their passage. Inside the hyperspace tunnel, the Prometheus shook as it followed the invisible path left by the Void Hunters. The tracking system showed they were moving through regions of space that appeared on no galactic charts, following routes that led into the darkest corners of the galaxy. Admiral, reported Commander Sarah Webb from the navigation station, we're approaching the edge of charted space. The quantum trail is leading us into the Void Sector. Every human in the fleet knew about the Void Sector. It was a region of space where stars were sparse and ancient, where entire solar systems had gone dark over the millennia. It was the place where many species believed the Void Hunters originated, though none had ever been brave enough to explore it. How long until we reach the trail's end? Rodriguez asked. Dr. Yamamoto studied his readings. Approximately 4 hours at current velocity. But Admiral, I'm detecting something unusual. The quantum signature is getting stronger, not weaker. Whatever created this trail, it's still there. Lieutenant Commander Singh looked up from his tactical display with excitement. Sir, I'm reading energy signatures ahead. Multiple contacts, but they're unlike anything in our database. Rodriguez felt his pulse quicken. After months of preparation, years of research, and generations of fear, humanity was finally about to face the Void Hunters on their own terms. Battle stations, he ordered. All ships prepare for combat. This is what we came for. Throughout the fleet, klaxons sounded as 27 human warships prepared for the fight of their lives. Weapons that had existed only in theory were powered up. Shields designed to repel energy-based attacks hummed to life. Marines checked their equipment one final time, preparing to board enemy vessels if the opportunity arose. Admiral, Dr. Yamamoto called out, his voice tight with fear and excitement. I'm reading massive structures ahead. Artificial constructs on a scale that defies comprehension. This isn't just a base or a staging area. This is a civilization. As Task Force Alpha dropped out of hyperspace, their sensors revealed a sight that would haunt the nightmares of every human aboard. Vast geometric structures floated in the darkness between dying stars, each one larger than Earth's moon. They pulsed with a malevolent energy that seemed to devour light itself, and around them, moving in patterns too complex for human minds to immediately comprehend, were ships. Thousands of them, the legendary Void Hunters, in numbers that no galactic species had ever imagined. My God, whispered Commander Webb. There are so many of them. Admiral Rodriguez stood straighter, his jaw set with determination. Signal all ships. Target the largest structure. We're not here to count them. We're here to kill them all. As the first shots of humanity's war against the galaxy's apex predators rang out across the Void Hunters began to realize that they were no longer the hunters. For the first time in 10,000 years, they had become the prey. Announced war. Part 3, the first volley of human weapons struck the Void Hunter structures like lightning from an angry god. Quantum disruptor beams designed specifically to tear apart the exotic matter that comprised Void Hunter technology carved brilliant white lines across the darkness. Where they struck, the alien constructs didn't just explode. They seemed to unravel at the fundamental level, their matter dissolving into base particles. Aboard the TFS Prometheus, Admiral Rodriguez watched with grim satisfaction as one of the smaller structures simply ceased to exist. Direct hit on target Alpha 7, structure eliminated. But the Void Hunters were not defenseless. As the human fleet pressed their attack, the enemy responded with weapons that defied conventional understanding. Beams of pure entropy lashed out, causing sections of human ships to age decades in seconds. Reality distortion fields tried to trap the attacking vessels in pockets of twisted spacetime. Evasive maneuvers. Rodriguez barked as a wave of nothingness swept toward the Prometheus. All ships pattern Omega-3. The human fleet scattered in a predetermined pattern that had been drilled into them during months of preparation. Unlike the rigid formations favored by most galactic militaries, human tactics emphasized chaos, unpredictability, and individual initiative. Commander Sarah Webb gripped her console as the ship rolled hard to starboard. "Admiral, the TFS Defiance is caught in some kind of temporal field. They're trapped." On the main screen, the heavy cruiser Defiance appeared to be moving in slow motion, its crew visible through the viewports like figures in amber. The Void Hunters were closing in for the kill. "Sing," Rodriguez snapped. "Target that entropy projector with a full spread of quantum torpedoes. Webb, bring us about. We're going to ram that temporal field generator." "Sir, the hull stress might tear us apart," Webb warned. Rodriguez's smile was cold as space. "Then we better hope we destroy them before they destroy us. This is what humans do, Commander. We don't retreat when our people are threatened." The Prometheus accelerated toward the alien device, its hull groaning under the stress of acceleration that would have crushed most galactic species. Human engineering, designed by a species that had evolved on a high-gravity world and had been forged by countless wars, held together through sheer bloody-minded determination. At the last second, the temporal field collapsed. The Defiance burst free like a bullet from a gun, her crew cheering as they regained normal time. The Void Hunter device, unable to cope with the feedback from the Prometheus's quantum-shielded hull, imploded spectacularly. "Target destroyed," reported Singh with satisfaction. "The Defiance is signaling all clear," but there was no time to celebrate. Across the battlefield, the true scope of the Void Hunter civilization was becoming apparent. The structures they were fighting weren't just bases, they were cities. Massive ancient cities that housed a population in the billions. Dr. Yamamoto looked up from his sensors, his face pale. "Admiral, I'm reading massive movement from the larger structures. They're launching something." On the tactical display, swarms of smaller vessels began pouring out of the alien cities like angry wasps from a disturbed hive. But these weren't ships in any conventional sense. They were creatures, living beings merged with technology in ways that made human cyborgs look primitive by comparison. "Biomechanical constructs," Dr. Yamamoto reported, his voice tight with scientific fascination and human horror. "They're using living beings as spacecraft. The energy signatures suggest they're somehow converting the life force of conquered species into fuel." The revelation sent a chill through the bridge crew. Every world the Void Hunters had stripped of life, every population they had consumed had been transformed into weapons to be used against other civilizations. "How many are we facing?" Rodriguez asked quietly. Singh's tactical display showed an ever-growing cloud of enemy contacts. "Conservative estimate, 50,000 individual units with more launching every minute. They've got the firepower to sterilize entire star systems. Any other species would have retreated at this point. The logical course of action was to withdraw, report back to the Galactic Council, and hope that someone could devise a better strategy. But humans had never been particularly logical when it came to warfare. "All ships," Rodriguez announced over the fleet channel. "We are significantly outnumbered by an enemy using technology we don't understand, in their home territory, with no chance of reinforcement or retreat." He paused, letting that sink in. "In other words, we've got them exactly where we want them." The response from the fleet was immediate and unmistakably human. 27 ships began broadcasting music over their communication systems. Ancient war songs from Earth, from the halls of Montezuma to the fields of Gettysburg, from the beaches of Normandy to the jungles of Vietnam. Humanity's long tradition of making war with a song in their hearts and defiance in their souls. "Dr. Yamamoto," Rodriguez called over the stirring notes of the battle hymn of the Republic, "I want you to monitor those biomechanical constructs. I have a theory about Void Hunter technology." "What kind of theory, Admiral?" "They've been apex predators for 10,000 years, Rodriguez explained as the Prometheus dove between two massive structures, her guns blazing. "They've never had to face a species that fights back effectively. I think their technology is optimized for hunting prey, not fighting an actual war." As if to prove his point, a squadron of Void Hunter bioconstructs attacked the human destroyer TFS Yorktown, using tactics that would have been perfect for terrorizing a helpless civilian population. They came in slowly, dramatically, trying to inspire fear and despair. The Yorktown responded by launching every missile in her arsenal simultaneously while spinning on her axis, creating a sphere of explosive death around herself. The Void Hunter Squadron, expecting their prey to cower in terror, flew straight into the trap and were obliterated. You see, Rodriguez pointed out as the debris field sparkled in the light of distant stars. They're used to hunting frightened civilians. They've never fought an enemy that shoots back. More importantly, they'd never fought humans. As the battle raged across the Void sector, it became clear that 10,000 years of easy victories had made the Void Hunters complacent. Their tactics were designed for intimidation and terror, not for pitched battle against an enemy that refused to be intimidated. Human tactics, on the other hand, had been refined through millennia of warfare against other humans, the most dangerous, unpredictable, and innovative warriors in known space. Every trick, every strategy, every dirty fighting technique that had ever been used in human warfare was now being deployed against an enemy that had never encountered anything like it. "Admiral," reported Commander Webb, "the TFS Constitution reports that ramming attacks are highly effective against Void Hunter bioconstructs. Apparently they're not built to withstand kinetic impact." Rodriguez nodded. Of course they weren't. Why would apex predators need to defend against kamikaze attacks? No prey species had ever been insane enough to use suicide tactics, but humans weren't prey. They were predators who had spent their entire evolutionary history hunting other predators. And now they had found the ultimate quarry. "Signal all ships," Rodriguez ordered. "We're going to show these monsters what happens when they hunt the children of Earth." Announced war. Part 4. 3 hours into the battle, the true genius of human warfare began to reveal itself. While most galactic species fought with rigid discipline and predictable tactics, humans had weaponized chaos itself. Every ship in Task Force Alpha was operating independently, creating a storm of unpredictable movements that the Void Hunters couldn't anticipate. The TFS Midway had configured itself into a mobile weapons platform, anchoring itself to a destroyed Void Hunter structure and using it as a fortress. Her captain, Commander Helena Vasquez, had turned her ship into a deadly surprise for any enemy that tried to flank the main fleet. "Vampire Squadron incoming on Vector 77 Mark 12, called her tactical officer. 43 bioconstructs approaching in formation." Vasquez smiled coldly. "Wait for it. Let them get close." The Void Hunter bioconstructs approached in their typical terror formation, designed to inspire maximum fear in their victims. They moved slowly, deliberately, their merged organic and mechanical components pulsing with malevolent life. They expected their prey to panic, to scatter, to make the kind of mistakes that prey always made. Instead, the Midway waited in complete silence, powered down and drifting like a piece of debris. At the last possible moment, Vasquez activated every system simultaneously. "Now all batteries fire." The Midway erupted like a sleeping volcano. Hidden weapons batteries revealed themselves, turning the supposedly dead Hulk into a blazing star of destruction. The Void Hunter Squadron, caught completely off guard by tactics they had never encountered, was annihilated in seconds. "That's how you hunt hunters," Vasquez announced to her cheering crew. Meanwhile, the destroyer TFS Samson had taken a different approach. Captain James Okoye had noticed that the Void Hunter bioconstructs seemed to communicate through some kind of shared consciousness field. So he had positioned his ship directly in the middle of a Void Hunter formation and begun broadcasting every piece of human music, poetry, literature, and art in the ship's database. The result was chaos. The bioconstructs, their shared consciousness suddenly flooded with human creativity and emotion, began attacking each other in confusion. Mozart's Requiem, Shakespeare's sonnets, and ancient human war chants created a cacophony that the Void Hunter hive mind couldn't process. "They're not used to individuality," Dr. Yamamoto observed from his position on the Prometheus. "Their entire civilization is based on collective consciousness. Human creativity and individual expression are like poison to their shared mental network." Admiral Rodriguez nodded grimly. "Signal the fleet. All ships are to begin broadcasting human cultural data on all frequencies. Poetry, music, philosophy, comedy, everything that makes us human." The order went out, and suddenly the Void sector was filled with the collected works of human civilization. The complete works of Shakespeare mixed with heavy metal music, ancient Greek philosophy blended with modern stand-up comedy, and scientific journals combined with children's nursery rhymes. The effect on the Void Hunters was immediate and devastating. Their carefully coordinated attacks dissolved into chaos as their shared consciousness struggled to process the overwhelming diversity of human thought. Bioconstructs collided with each other. Weapons fired at random targets, and the ancient structures began showing signs of system failures. "It's working," breathed Commander Webb. "They're tearing themselves apart." But the Void Hunters were not defenseless. As their collective consciousness began to adapt to the human assault, they started launching more desperate attacks. Weapons that had been held in reserve for 10,000 years began to appear. Reality bombs that could erase entire ships from existence, temporal weapons that aged their targets to dust in seconds, and something that Dr. Yamamoto's instruments could only describe as aggressive nothingness. The human fleet took casualties. The destroyer TFS New Orleans simply vanished when caught by a reality bomb. Her crew erased from existence so completely that even the memory of them began to fade. The cruiser TFS Stalingrad aged to scrap in moments when hit by a temporal weapon, her crew dying of old age in seconds. But for every human ship destroyed, the Void Hunters lost dozens of bioconstructs. The exchange rate was massively in humanity's favor, and more importantly, the humans were learning while the Void Hunters were simply dying. "Admiral," called Dr. Yamamoto urgently, "I'm detecting something massive moving in the deep structures. Energy signatures off the scale. I think they're bringing up their primary weapons." On the tactical display, something enormous began rising from the largest Void Hunter city. It was a structure the size of a small moon, covered in weapons that radiated power like a miniature star. Ancient beyond comprehension, it had been the ultimate weapon of the Void Hunters for millennia, the entropy engine. "What does it do?" Rodriguez asked. Dr. Yamamoto's face was pale as he read the sensor data. "It appears to be designed to drain the life energy from entire star systems. According to these readings, it could kill every living thing within 100 light-years." The bridge fell silent. Every human in Task Force Alpha knew they were looking at their deaths. No ship, no fleet, no species had ever survived a direct assault from an entropy engine. It was the weapon that had ended entire galactic civilizations. "Sir," reported Lieutenant Commander Singh quietly, "all ships are requesting orders." Rodriguez looked at the tactical display, calculating odds that were impossible and strategies that defied reason. 26 remaining human ships against a weapon that could sterilize solar systems. Any rational commander would order a retreat, but Admiral Marcus Rodriguez was human, and humans had a long tradition of doing the impossible when faced with certain death. "Signal all ships," he announced. "We're going to ram that thing." "Sir?" Commander Webb stared at him in shock. "You heard me. We're going to accelerate to maximum velocity and ram the entropy engine, all 26 ships simultaneously at the same impact point." Dr. Yamamoto looked up from his calculations. "Admiral, even if every ship hits at exactly the same spot, the kinetic energy wouldn't be enough to—" "It's not about the kinetic energy," Rodriguez interrupted. "It's about sending a message. The Void Hunters have ruled this galaxy through fear for 10,000 years. They need to learn that humans don't know how to be afraid." The order went out to the fleet, and the response was immediate. 26 human warships, their crews singing ancient battle songs, began accelerating directly toward the most powerful weapon in galactic history. As they closed the distance, their combined voices carried across the communication channels, singing songs of home, of courage, of defiance in the face of impossible odds. They sang of Earth, blue and beautiful and proud. They sang of the human spirit that refused to be broken, and in the depths of the Void Hunter civilization, for the first time in 10,000 years, something that had never known fear began to understand what it meant to be truly terrified. Announced War, Part 5. The 26 ships of Task Force Alpha accelerated toward the entropy engine like bullets fired from the hand of God himself. Their hulls glowed white-hot from the stress of maximum acceleration. Their crews pressed into their chairs by forces that would have killed most galactic species. But humans were evolved from persistence hunters, from creatures that could run their prey to death across endless plains. They endured. Inside the Prometheus, Admiral Rodriguez watched the tactical display as the distance closed. The entropy engine was charging its primary weapon, drawing power from the dying stars around it. Energy readings that made Dr. Yamamoto's instruments scream in protest built up in the alien weapon's core. 30 seconds to impact, announced Commander Webb, her voice steady despite the crushing acceleration. All ships maintaining formation. The Void Hunter bioconstructs were swarming around the human fleet now, firing everything they had. But their weapons had been designed to inspire terror, not to stop a determined assault. Energy beams and exotic matter projectiles sparked harmlessly off the human ship's quantum shielding. "Admiral," called Dr. Yamamoto, his voice strained, "the entropy engine is reaching critical charge. When it fires, it will drain the life from every organic molecule within 100 light-year radius." Rodriguez nodded grimly. He had known this was likely a suicide mission from the beginning. But sometimes the only way to win was to be willing to lose everything. "Message to all ships," he announced. "It has been an honor serving with you. Remember, we came here to send a message. Make sure that message is received loud and clear." The response came back from 26 ships, 8,000 human voices united in defiance. "Understood, Admiral. See you in Valhalla." But as the human fleet closed to final impact range, something unexpected happened. The entropy engine's charge cycle suddenly destabilized. The weapon that had terrorized the galaxy for millennia began fluctuating wildly, its power readings oscillating between impossible extremes. "What's happening?" Rodriguez demanded. Dr. Yamamoto was frantically checking his instruments. "I don't understand. The quantum resonance from our ship seems to be interfering with their charging matrix. Our hyperspace drives, our quantum shielding, even our communications array. They're all operating on frequencies that the entropy engine can't compensate for." The truth hit Rodriguez like a physical blow. They've never faced human technology before. Their weapons are designed to counter every known galactic technology. But we developed our systems completely independently. We're using quantum mechanics they've never encountered. As if to prove his point, the entropy engine's charging cycle collapsed completely. The ancient weapon, faced with technology it had never been designed to counter, shut down rather than risk destroying itself. "All ships," Rodriguez ordered. "Modify attack pattern. Target the weapon's power core directly. Use quantum disruptors on maximum yield." The human fleet struck the entropy engine like the fist of an angry god. 26 ships, their crews singing songs of Earth, poured every weapon they possessed into the heart of the Void Hunter's ultimate weapon. Quantum disruptors designed by human scientists who had never seen alien technology tore through defenses that had withstood galactic warfare for 10,000 years. The entropy engine didn't just explode, it imploded. The massive weapon collapsed in on itself, creating a brief but brilliant star as its exotic matter core destabilized. The shockwave destroyed everything within 1,000,000 kilometers, including most of the Void Hunter bioconstructs and several of their city structures. As the light faded, the surviving human ships found themselves in a very different battlefield. The Void Hunters were in complete disarray, their formations broken, their communication networks down. For the first time in their species' history, they were experiencing something completely foreign to their nature. Panic. "Admiral," reported Singh with barely contained excitement, "we're reading massive power failures throughout the Void Hunter installations. Their entire civilization seems to be having some kind of cascade failure." Dr. Yamamoto looked up from his sensors in amazement. "Sir, I think I understand what's happening. The Void Hunter civilization is based on absolute confidence in their technological superiority. They've never faced an enemy that could challenge their fundamental assumptions about the universe. We've essentially caused a civilization-wide psychological breakdown." The evidence was everywhere. Void Hunter bioconstructs were fleeing in random directions, their shared consciousness apparently unable to process the concept of defeat. Ancient city structures were powering down, their inhabitants retreating into defensive hibernation. The species that had terrorized the galaxy for 10 millennia was collapsing like a house of cards. But Admiral Rodriguez wasn't finished. He had come here to end the Void Hunter threat permanently, and 21 surviving human ships were more than enough to finish the job. "Signal all ships," he ordered. "We're not done yet. Begin systematic destruction of all Void Hunter installations. No prisoners, no survivors, no mercy. They showed no mercy to Kepler 442, and they'll get none from us." What followed was not a battle but an execution. The human fleet moved through the Void Hunter civilization like death itself, their weapons reducing ancient cities to cosmic dust. They showed no more emotion than a farmer harvesting grain. systematically eliminating every trace of the species that had brought nothing but death to the galaxy. The Void Hunters tried to surrender, broadcasting complex mathematical equations that their translators interpreted as pleas for mercy. But humanity had not come this far to show mercy. They had come to ensure that no Void Hunter would ever threaten another innocent world. "Admiral," called Commander Webb as the TFS Prometheus approached the final Void Hunter installation, "we're receiving what appears to be historical data from the enemy. They're trying to show us something." On the main screen, images appeared of the Void Hunters in their original form, not the twisted biomechanical constructs they had become, but a peaceful species of energy beings who had once been explorers and scientists. The data showed their gradual corruption by an ancient artifact they had discovered, their transformation from peaceful researchers into galactic parasites. For a moment, Rodriguez hesitated. These creatures had once been innocent, perverted by forces beyond their control. Then he remembered the empty world where Kepler 414-2 had been. He remembered 2 million human colonists who would never see another sunrise. "Fire," he ordered quietly. The final Void Hunter installation died in silence, its ancient secrets burning away in the light of human vengeance. As Task Force Alpha regrouped in the emptiness where a galactic threat had once lurked, Admiral Rodriguez opened a channel to all ships. "Mission accomplished," he announced. "The Void Hunters are extinct. After 10,000 years of terror, the galaxy is finally safe." The cheers from 21 human ships echoed across the Void sector, carrying news that would reshape galactic civilization forever. Humanity had done the impossible. They had hunted the Hunters to extinction. But as the fleet prepared to return to human space, Dr. Yamamoto made a discovery that would change everything. Deep in the wreckage of the entropy engine, his sensors detected something that should not have existed. A quantum signature that matched no known technology. The Void Hunters, it seemed, had not been the ultimate threat after all. They had been servants of something far worse, something that was now aware that its agents had been destroyed. And in the deepest regions of space, ancient intelligences that had slumbered for millions of years began to stir, drawn by the quantum resonance of human technology that had never been meant to exist. The real war was just beginning. Announced war. Part 6, The Journey Back to Human Space, should have been a victory celebration. 21 battered but triumphant ships carrying the news that humanity had accomplished the impossible. The complete extinction of the galaxy's most feared predators. Instead, Admiral Rodriguez found himself staring at Dr. Yamamoto's latest sensor readings with growing unease. "Show me again," he ordered quietly. Dr. Yamamoto's hand shook as he brought up the quantum analysis on the main display. "The signatures are unmistakable, Admiral. The Void Hunters were using technology that doesn't match their evolutionary development. These quantum resonance patterns suggest they were given their advanced capabilities by something else. Something older," added Commander Webb, studying the data. "Much older." The implications were staggering. The Void Hunters, for all their terror and destruction, had been mere tools. Somewhere in the galaxy, their true masters were learning that their servants had been destroyed by a species that wasn't supposed to exist. "Admiral," called Lieutenant Commander Singh from the communications station, "we're receiving a priority transmission from Earth Command. Admiral Chen requests immediate communication." Rodriguez nodded. "Put her through." The holographic image of Admiral Sarah Chen, Rodriguez's superior and the architect of humanity's war against the Void Hunters, appeared on the bridge. Her expression was grim. "Marcus," she said without preamble, "we have a problem. 3 hours ago, our deep space monitoring stations detected massive quantum disturbances in 17 different sectors. Something big is moving and it's heading toward inhabited space." Rodriguez felt a chill run down his spine. "How big?" "Structures the size of gas giants," Chen replied. "Moving at velocities that shouldn't be possible. Our physicists are calling it aggressive space-time manipulation. Whatever these things are, they make the Void Hunters look like children playing with toys." Dr. Yamamoto looked up from his console in alarm. "Admiral, I'm detecting similar quantum signatures approaching our position. Multiple contacts, massive scale, closing fast." "How long until they reach us?" Rodriguez asked. "At current velocity, 4 hours." Rodriguez made a decision that would echo through galactic history. "Signal the fleet. All ships prepare for hyperspace jump. We're not running, we're going to meet them halfway." "Sir?" Commander Webb stared at him in disbelief. We don't know what we're facing. Shouldn't we retreat and gather more forces? Rodriguez's smile was cold as the void between stars. Commander, we just proved that humans can kill gods. I'm curious to see what we can do to devils. As Task Force Alpha prepared for another impossible battle, Admiral Chen's transmission continued from Earth. Marcus, I've contacted the Galactic Council. For the first time in recorded history, every major species has agreed to a mutual defense pact. They're mobilizing everything they have. How long until reinforcements arrive? Rodriguez asked. 72 hours minimum, Chen replied. The Drakmaran Empire is sending their entire battle fleet. The Ethereals are providing their reality manipulation technology. Even the Aquarians are contributing their quantum processing capabilities. Rodriguez nodded grimly. We'll hold them for 72 hours, whatever it takes. As the human fleet jumped toward their destiny, the true scale of the threat they faced began to reveal itself. The entities approaching were not ships or constructs. They were living beings so ancient and powerful that they had transcended physical form eons ago. They were the architects of the Void Hunters, the puppet masters who had shaped galactic history from the shadows for millions of years. The Primarchs, as they were known in the deepest archives of the oldest civilizations, had been sleeping in the spaces between galaxies for untold millennia. They had created the Void Hunters as tools to cull the younger species, preventing any civilization from growing, powerful enough to challenge their dominance. But now their tools had been destroyed by a species that shouldn't have been able to develop advanced technology for another 1,000 years. The Primarchs were awake and they were angry. Contact, Singh announced as Task Force Alpha dropped out of hyperspace. Multiple targets bearing 0 Mark 0 through 360 Mark 360. They're everywhere. The tactical display showed a sight that would have driven most species to madness. 7 entities, each one the size of a small moon, had arranged themselves in a perfect sphere around the human fleet. They pulsed with energies that existed outside normal space-time, their forms shifting between dimensions in ways that hurt to look at directly. My God, whispered Dr. Yamamoto. They're not using technology at all. They are the technology, living weapons that predate our galaxy's formation. One of the entities began to communicate, its thoughts pressing directly into the minds of every human in the fleet. The voice that echoed in their consciousness was older than stars, colder than the space between galaxies. Young species, you have destroyed our tools. You will be recycled. Admiral Rodriguez stood up from his command chair, his jaw set with determination that had carried humanity from the caves of Africa to the stars beyond Earth. This is Admiral Marcus Rodriguez of the Terran Federation, he announced, knowing that the entities could hear his thoughts as clearly as his words. Your tools attacked our people. We defended ourselves. If you want a war, we'll give you one. The response was immediate and overwhelming. Reality twisted around the human fleet as the Primarchs unleashed weapons that operated on principles beyond human comprehension. Space-time folded like origami, creating gravity wells that tried to crush the human ships. Energy that existed in 17 dimensions simultaneously tore at their hulls. But human ships had not been built by any galactic standard. They had been designed by a species that had learned engineering in the gravity wells of Earth, had learned metallurgy in the fires of industrial warfare, had learned survival in the crucible of evolution. They endured. All ships, Rodriguez ordered as the Prometheus shook under assault from forces that could have destroyed stars. Return fire. Everything we have. 21 human warships opened fire simultaneously, their weapons designed to kill the unkillable now turned against beings that had shaped the galaxy since its birth. Quantum disruptors that had torn apart Void Hunter technology struck ancient flesh that existed in multiple dimensions. Reality bombs designed by human physicists who thought outside galactic conventions exploded against entities that had never imagined such weapons could exist. And for the first time in millions of years, the Primarchs felt pain. Not possible. You are insects. You cannot harm us. Watch us, Rodriguez snarled as he ordered another volley. The battle that followed defied every law of physics, every principle of warfare, every assumption about the nature of reality itself. Ancient beings that had witnessed the birth of galaxies fought desperately against creatures that had learned to make war on a world where survival meant killing everything that moved. In the depths of space, Impossible energies clashed as the youngest species in the galaxy taught the oldest that evolution never stopped, that adaptation never ended, and that somewhere in the universe, there was always something bigger, badder, and more determined to survive. The war for the galaxy's future had truly begun. Announced war. Part 7. The battle raged for 18 hours without pause. Reality bent and twisted around the combatants as forces older than galactic civilization clashed with the newest predators in the universe. The Primarchs, beings of such ancient power that they had forgotten what it meant to struggle, found themselves locked in mortal combat with creatures that had made an art form of survival against impossible odds. Admiral Rodriguez stood on the bridge of the Prometheus, his uniform torn and bloodied from the hull breaches that had been sealed with emergency foam. Around him, his crew worked with the desperate efficiency that had carried humanity through every crisis in their violent history. Status. Report, he called over the sound of stressed metal and overloaded systems. Hull integrity at 60%. Commander Webb reported, her voice hoarse from shouting orders. Weapons systems are operating at 40% efficiency. We've lost the starboard quantum battery completely. Engineering reports that our hyperspace drive is completely shot, added Singh. We're not running from this fight. Admiral. Rodriguez nodded grimly. He hadn't expected to survive this encounter, but he was proud that his ships had lasted this long against entities that had existed since before Earth-Sun had formed. On the tactical display, the surviving ships of Task Force Alpha continued their impossible fight. 12 human vessels remained operational, their hulls scarred and blackened but their weapons still firing. They moved in patterns that no galactic species had ever attempted, using chaos theory and quantum uncertainty to stay one step ahead of enemies that could predict the movement of planets. Dr. Yamamoto looked up from his console with excitement, despite the desperate situation. Admiral, I'm detecting massive hyperspace signatures approaching our position. Multiple fleets, various species signatures, the cavalry? Rodriguez asked with a tired smile. Better than that, sir. It's everyone. As if summoned by the defiance of 21 human ships, the combined might of galactic civilization burst out of hyperspace. The Drakmaran Empire's entire battle fleet, their massive dreadnoughts bristling with weapons designed for planetary bombardment. The Ethereal Collective's reality manipulation ships, vessels that existed partially outside normal space-time. The Aquarian Federation's quantum processing arrays, technological marvels that could calculate the position of every atom in a solar system. But they weren't alone. Behind them came ships from every species that had ever been terrorized by the Void Hunters. The insectoid Cathera brought their swarm tactics. The crystalline resonance provided harmonic weapons that could shatter matter at the molecular level. Even the peaceful gardener species had contributed their bioships, living vessels that could adapt and evolve during combat. Over 10,000 ships from 300 different species, united for the first time in galactic history by a simple truth. The humans had shown them that gods could bleed. General Thektar of the Drakmaran Empire opened a communication channel that reached every ship in the combined fleet. His translated voice carried the grim satisfaction of a warrior who had found a battle worthy of his skills. Human Admiral Rodriguez, he growled. The Drakmaran Empire has come to honor our debt. You showed us how to hunt the hunters. Now we will show the galaxy how to kill gods. The response from Admiral Rodriguez carried across space to thousands of ships and millions of crew members from every corner of known civilization. All ships. This is Admiral Rodriguez. Today we fight not as separate species but as children of the galaxy. These ancient parasites have fed on our fear for too long. Show them what we've learned from humanity, that there's always something bigger, badder, and more stubborn than whatever thinks it's at the top of the food chain. The combined fleet struck the Primarchs like a tsunami of directed fury. Technologies that had never been designed to work together merged into weapon systems that defied conventional understanding. Drakmaran kinetic bombardment combined with ethereal reality manipulation to create bullets that existed in 17 dimensions simultaneously. Aquarian quantum processing guided Cathera swarm tactics to create attacks that struck from everywhere at once. And through it all, the surviving human ships continued their impossible dance of destruction, their crews singing ancient war songs as they taught the galaxy how to fight like humans. The Primarchs, faced with the combined might of an entire galaxy that had finally learned to fight back, began to realize that their age was ending. These younger species weren't just resisting, they were adapting, evolving, becoming something that the ancient beings could never have anticipated. You cannot defeat us. We are eternal. We shaped the galaxy before your sons were born. Admiral Rodriguez's response echoed across every ship in the fleet. Maybe you were eternal, but eternity just met evolution, and evolution always wins in the end. The final phase of the battle began as the Primarchs, desperate now, began to draw power directly from nearby stars. Ancient weapons that had been designed to sterilize entire galactic arms awakened from eons of slumber. Space itself began to collapse as the oldest beings in the universe made their final stand. But they faced an enemy that had learned the most important lesson in the universe. Adaptation never stops. The combined fleet responded to each escalation with innovations that surprised even their creators. Drakmaran engineers worked with ethereal physicists to create weapons that struck at the fundamental forces of reality itself. Human tacticians coordinated with Aquarian quantum computers to predict attack patterns based on chaos theory and random probability. In the end, it wasn't superior firepower that won the battle. It wasn't better technology or greater numbers. It was the simple fact that the younger species of the galaxy had learned to work together, to adapt, to become something greater than the sum of their parts. The last Primarch fell as 10,000 ships from 300 species focused their fire on a being that had existed since before their galaxies had fully formed. Its death scream echoed across multiple dimensions, a sound of such ancient fury and despair that it would be detected by deep space monitoring stations for centuries to come. As the combined fleet regrouped in the aftermath of victory, Admiral Rodriguez found himself receiving communications from species he had never heard of, from civilizations so distant that their light had not yet reached human space. Word was spreading across the galaxy that the age of ancient tyranny was over. The humans had shown them the way. The humans had taught them that nothing was unkillable, that no enemy was too powerful to defeat, that the universe belonged to those with the courage to fight for it. Admiral Sarah Chen's voice reached Rodriguez from Earth, carrying news that would reshape galactic civilization. Marcus, the Galactic Council has unanimously voted to establish a new alliance, the Galactic Defense Force, with humanity as the primary military advisors. They want us to teach them how to fight like humans. Rodriguez smiled as he looked out at the wreckage of beings that had once ruled the galaxy through fear. Tell them we accept, Admiral. But they should be warned. Learning to fight like humans means learning to never give up, never back down, and never accept that something is impossible just because it's never been done before. As Task Force Alpha began its final journey home, their hulls scarred but their spirits triumphant, the galaxy began to change. Ancient fears were replaced by new hopes. Species that had hidden in terror for millennia began to explore, to expand, to dream of futures that their ancestors could never have imagined. The age of the Primarchs was over. The age of humanity had begun, and in the depths of space, on worlds not yet discovered and in dimensions not yet explored, the message spread. Earth's children were coming, and they had taught the galaxy how to hunt gods. The war was over. The real adventure was just beginning.